Music is the lifeline, but family is the reason I keep standing. Vince Gill has always affirmed that when speaking about the journey that led him to find a peaceful harbor beside Amy Grant after the storms of the past. And few people know that the man who possesses 22 Grammy Awards, with a soaring tenor voice and a solid financial legacy exceeding $40 million, once collapsed beside the hospital bed of a brother who lived in a vegetative state for 26 years. Or the moment he had to sign the divorce papers to place a final period on 17 years of youth, simply because of the endless tours. Even the times he quietly used money to buy peace for his current wife in the shadow of the Reaper's blade. In the end, was Vince Gill's wealth truly a reward? And what is the real legacy he passes on to the next generation, if it is not the lifeless numbers sitting inside a bank account? Vince Gill was born in Norman, Oklahoma, into a family where music was always present like the air people breathe. His father, a federal judge who also played guitar and banjo as an amateur, passed that passion to young Vince at a very early age. As a teenager, Vince was already holding a guitar and singing at local performances. And by 1973, at the age of 16, he joined the Bluegrass band Mountain Smoke, a small but deeply passionate group in his hometown. In those days, music was everything to him. The echoing sound of the banjo, the ringing tones of the guitar, and the feeling of freedom when standing on a small stage before a crowd. But Oklahoma, though warm and familiar, was too small for dreams that were far larger. And the first tragedy in Vince's life was not loss, it was separation. In order to pursue a professional path, Vince had to leave Oklahoma, far from his family, far from the familiar streets and the people he loved. He once recalled that during his first nights in a distant place, he sat alone in a small rented room, holding his guitar with hands that trembled from homesickness and memories of family jam sessions. The first flash of light appeared in 1975, when Vince moved to Louisville, Kentucky, and joined Bluegrass Alliance, a well-known bluegrass band at the time. It was here that his guitar skills truly began to shine. His fingers moved across the strings as fast as lightning, and the traditional bluegrass melodies were played with a refinement and emotional depth that few could rival. People began mentioning the young man from Oklahoma with growing respect. Life as a musician was never smooth. Cheap hotels, overnight drives across long highways, hurried meals, money that was always tight, and the constant fear of being left behind. Vince once admitted that there were nights when he asked himself whether he was sacrificing too much. A dream, at times, does not bring the warm glow people imagine, and Vince himself was slowly losing his way. Then in 1976, he found a companion in Ricky Skaggs. They worked together in the Boone Creek Band, and that connection expanded Vince's network in the bluegrass world because Ricky had already built a respected reputation in the field. Beyond being colleagues, Ricky became a source of encouragement, helping him remain persistent through hardship. It was as if they shared the same soul, and whenever they were together, they played music as though it were the only thing capable of saving them. The peak of the early stage of his career arrived in 1979 when Vince joined Prairie League, a rising country rock band. At that time, they were searching for a new vocalist, and Vince, with his warm voice and his ability to play multiple instruments, quickly became the lead singer. The hit Let Me Love You Tonight in 1980 climbed straight into the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100. His first national success, turning the loneliness of being far from home into a triumphant sound carried by radio stations across the United States. But during those same years, from the 1960s through the 1970s, when his career was beginning to bloom, his life turned in a darker direction than ever before. His half-brother, Bob Cohen, suffered a severe car accident at the age of 22 while driving at high speed under the influence of alcohol, crashing into a truck. He remained in a coma for months, and when he regained consciousness, his brain had suffered serious damage with memory loss and impaired cognitive ability. Bob lived another 25 years with those consequences, frequently wandering away and depending on rescue centers for support. Vince was barely in his 20s when it happened. He was standing on stage singing about love and hope while his family faced a brutal reality that could never be reversed. The true pain had already begun to embed itself deep inside his heart. Vince once said through tears that, to me, he had already died a long time ago, even though his body was still alive. It was not because Bob had become a burden, but because the brother he once knew, the first musical companion in his life, the person who played guitar with him when he was a child, was gone. That tragedy carved into Vince's soul a cruel awareness. Life can change in a single night, and human fragility became a constant shadow inside his mind. He began thinking more often about legacy, about what would remain if one day he himself were gone. Perhaps that was why he worked more. Tours became denser, recording sessions increased. Songs were written more frequently. At the same time, the exhaustion grew heavier than ever. Life rarely takes everything away from someone, because in the middle of those losses, Vince found peace and love. In 1980, he married singer Janice Oliver, a talented performer from the group Sweethearts of the Rodeo. 2 years later, on the 5th of May, 1982, their daughter Jennifer Jaren Gill was born. Vince called her Jenny, and he said the moment he held her in his arms for the first time made everything else seem small. I knew I had to live better. I had to become a father worthy of her. Being a father while a career remained unstable was a brutal challenge. In the early years of the 1980s, Vince was still struggling to find a secure place in the country music industry. Not every project succeeded. Not every album sold well. There were even periods when it seemed as though he might disappear among hundreds of other voices. Then, in 1989, the greatest turning point in his solo career appeared when he finally had the chance to sign a contract with MCA Nashville, something he had been waiting nearly a decade to achieve. The album When I Call Your Name was released afterward and quickly created a powerful wave of attention, selling more than 1 million copies and reaching high positions on the country charts. The title track became a deeply emotional ballad reflecting his own quiet inner struggles. Only 1 year after its release, in 1991, Vince Gill won his first Grammy Award, a glorious moment before millions of cheering fans. It was the moment when the young man who once left Oklahoma could finally say to himself, "I made it," even though the spotlight of today had required countless days spent far from home. Perhaps that was exactly what created the distinctive sound of Vince Gill, the sound of pain transformed into art, of tears turning into melody. If the first part of his life was a journey searching for a place in music, the next part would become the story of how Vince Gill transformed success into a solid financial foundation. When the early 1990s arrived, Vince Gill had become a true solo artist. The album I Still Believe in You was released in 1992 and exploded like a bomb. More than 5 million copies were sold. The songs climbed steadily up the charts, and royalty income began flowing in from MCA Nashville. According to analysts within the industry, this album alone brought him millions of dollars in royalties during its early years of release. It was no longer simply a hit. It became very real proof that his personal pain could be transformed into gold, not only on the charts, but also in the bank. Money arrived together with responsibility. Vince understood that fame can be fragile. Today, you stand at the top of the charts. Tomorrow, someone else may replace you. Because of that, he began diversifying his sources of income. Throughout the 1990s, he signed endorsement deals with major brands such as Gibson Guitars, a partnership that felt almost perfectly natural between an artist and his instrument, turning the image of Vince Gill holding a Gibson guitar on stage into an icon. This collaboration brought in roughly $2 million each year. Combined with winning the CMA Male Vocalist of the Year award, 5 consecutive times from 1991 to 1995, the Vince Gill brand became stronger than ever. Year after year, when his name was announced, it was not only an artistic honor, it was also a commercial lever. Performance fees increased, tickets sold faster, contract values rose. Vince did not flaunt his wealth, but he began to understand how money moved within the entertainment industry. Then, in 1993, at the moment his career was reaching its peak, tragedy struck again. His brother Bob Cohen passed away at the age of 48 after many years living with the severe consequences of the accident. Even though the family had long prepared themselves mentally, the loss still felt like a knife. "You are never ready for that," Vince shared in an interview, his voice tightening with emotion. From that pain, Go Rest High on That Mountain was finally completed. He had originally begun writing the song years earlier, though it was only after Bob passed away that he found the emotional strength to finish it. When the song plays, no listener can avoid feeling the depth of its sincerity. It is not simply a song. It is a farewell. It is a cry compressed into every musical note. In 1995, the song won a Grammy Award and quickly became one of country music's sacred anthems whenever someone says goodbye to a loved one. Vince once recalled that after singing the song at a funeral, a stranger approached him and said, "You sang the words I could not say." That moment may have helped him fully understand his role. Music is not only entertainment, it is healing. The paradox is that his personal losses became the greatest source of strength for his career. That pain also changed the way he looked at life. He became more patient, quieter, more reflective. When singer Eric Church lost his brother in 2018, Vince shared thoughts with him that only someone who had lived through such loss could understand. He did not offer ornate words. "The pain will not disappear. You will learn how to carry it with you." A moment of brotherhood within the music world, where sorrow was shared through honest words. The pain that time might have softened did not fade entirely. And only 4 years later, 1997, took another piece of his heart, his father, Jay. Stan Gill, the man who had given him his love of music as a child, passed away from cancer at the age of 65. The man who taught him his first chord, who once sat listening while he practiced for hours, was gone. His father's death deepened the theme of loss in his music. Songs about memory, family, and love carried an even more profound emotional weight. The year 1997 was not only a year of mourning, it was also the year his 17-year marriage with Janice Oliver officially came to an end. Their demanding touring schedules, professional pressure, and long stretches of distance slowly wore down the relationship. The divorce unfolded quietly, though the pain was real. Janice received custody of their daughter, Jenny, and Vince accepted that reality in silence. Even though he remained close to his daughter, the feeling of no longer living with her every day was difficult to describe. The divorce and the loss of his father at the same time pushed Vince into a period of emotional turbulence. He later admitted that during those years, he felt empty, as if everything he had built, his career, his family, was dissolving. Loneliness returned, stronger than ever. During the late 1990s, Vince stepped onto the stage with a professional smile, while inside there was a hollow space. That pain pushed him to search for healing. Light eventually appeared through Amy Grant. They first met in 1993 during a music project. At that time, both were already married. Their friendship began through artistic respect and shared understanding of life's struggles. After both of their earlier marriages ended, they gradually realized the connection between them was deeper than either had imagined. On the 10th of March, 2000, they were married in a small ceremony in Nashville with around 75 guests present. Amy walked barefoot during the ceremony, simple and natural like her personality, a gentle image filled with meaning. Vince later said, "I had never felt peace like that. It was not the impulsive love of youth, it was the love of two people who had lived through broken chapters and understood the value of forgiveness and patience." 2 years later, their daughter, Karina Grant Gill, was born and was often described as the glue that bonded their blended family together. Vince was now the father of 5 children, 1 biological daughter from his first marriage, Amy's 3 children from her earlier marriage, and their daughter together. Their home in Nashville was not only a place to live, it symbolized a new beginning. He often said that being a father was the greatest joy of his life, even though balancing family and career was never simple. Alongside his family journey, Vince continued strengthening his financial foundation. In 2005, he invested in real estate in Nashville, including a mansion worth several $million. Nashville at that time was growing rapidly, and that decision allowed his wealth to increase steadily over time. Although he was not known as a reckless investor, in 2008 he still experienced a setback when he lost a significant amount in stock investments during the financial crisis. He admitted that he felt extremely stressed. "I thought I understood the market, but it turned out I didn't," he said half-jokingly. The lesson made him more humble with money. Fortunately, the financial base built through many years of success and his 22 Grammy Awards allowed him to pass through that period without serious instability. A major opportunity arrived in 2017. After the death of Glenn Frey, a close friend and founding member of the Eagles, in 2016, at the age of 67 due to illness complications, Vince was invited to join the band. He accepted and considered it a way to honor Glenn's legacy. Each time he performed Eagles hits on stage, he sang with deep emotion, almost like speaking with the friend who was no longer there. Joining the Eagles created a dual impact. It helped him process grief through music, while also increasing his income through global tours. From 2018 to 2023, the band generated more than $100 million in ticket revenue, with a significant portion flowing to Vince, strengthening his financial position. By 2024, observers estimated Vince Gill's net worth to be between $30 and $40 million, the result of more than 3 decades of constant work, careful investment decisions, and the ability to leverage the value of his personal brand without losing his identity. If people look only at the numbers, they will miss the most important part. For Vince, money was never the final destination. It became a tool to protect his family, to create stability after years of uncertainty, to make sure his children would never grow up with the same worries he once experienced. That wealth was built with tears, with sleepless nights, with the pain of losing loved ones. It was also built with new love for his children and for music. Assets are not only balance sheets or property values. In the next part, the story will not focus solely on money. It will explore how that wealth became support during the most brutal challenges of his life. As he entered the mature phase of his career, Vince Gill no longer needed to prove who he was. He already had dozens of hit songs, Grammy Awards, and the respect of the entire country music industry. What surprised many people was not only his artistic stature, but the way he transformed that talent into a sustainable financial ecosystem that lasted for decades. By the 2010s, Vince had sold more than 26 million albums worldwide. More than 10 albums received multi-platinum certification from the RIAA, most of them released through MCA Nashville beginning in the early 1990s. That meant a steady stream of royalty income flowing in every single year. In the music industry, where many artists must rely entirely on touring in order to survive, Vince held a rare advantage. His music continued to sell, continued to be broadcast, continued to be used in events and television programs. Songs like "I Still Believe in You" and "Go Rest High on That Mountain" were not merely songs. They were intellectual property assets capable of generating long-term income. Still, successful album sales represented only part of the story. Touring was the real gold mine. For more than 3 decades, Vince had almost never stayed away from the stage for long. Every concert night was a significant source of revenue. not even counting the income from merchandise, sponsorships, and television appearances. From 1992 to 2003, he hosted the Country Music Association Awards ceremony 12 times. Appearing consistently before millions of national television viewers did not simply reinforce his image as a refined gentleman of country music, it elevated the value of his personal brand to an unprecedented level. Vince never flaunted his wealth. The people close to him understood that he had reached a level of financial freedom that very few artists ever achieve. His home in Nashville was spacious, though warm and inviting, a place where music and the laughter of children blended together. Family trips, luxurious vacations, investing in the best possible education for his children, all of it happened without hesitation. Beyond music, Vince also searched for ways to expand his sources of income through business. During the 2000s, he invested in restaurants and golf courses across Tennessee. These investments were quiet and understated, though substantial enough to create a stable stream of passive income. Friends often joked that Vince could live comfortably, even if he never went on tour again. Another stream of income emerged from the remarkable artistic partnership with his wife, Amy Grant. Their holiday concerts from 2015 through 2023 became a tradition audiences looked forward to every year. They did not simply sing, they told stories, they shared faith, they spoke about the experiences of everyday life. Tickets frequently sold out quickly. Those evenings generated significant revenue, while also strengthening the image of a mature artistic couple, seasoned by life and experience, while still holding on to sincerity. In 2018, he purchased a vintage guitar that once belonged to Jabbo Arrington for around $100,000. When he brought that instrument onto the stage at the Grand Ole Opry, he spoke very little about its material value. He spoke about history, about the hands that had once touched those strings before his own. That moment was not an act of showing off wealth. It was an act of honoring musical heritage. Even so, wealth and financial stability did not make life immune to hardship. In 2020, Amy Grant was diagnosed with a serious heart condition during a routine medical checkup and needed surgery. The news struck Vince like a direct blow to the heart. He had already endured the loss of his brother and the death of his father. The thought that he might lose his life partner left him almost unable to breathe. The open-heart surgery was successfully performed in June of that year, with a cost of around $500,000, a large sum. Though Vince cared about only one thing: Amy had to be safe. In that moment, the wealth accumulated over many years suddenly carried a different meaning. It was no longer simply numbers written on paper. It was a safety net. It was the ability to reach the best doctors, the best hospitals, and the best possible post-surgical care. After that ordeal, he changed, he slowed down, he spent more time with his family. He also began giving away more than before. Donations to the American Red Cross and ACM Lifting Lives increased significantly. Vince understood the helpless feeling that illness and disaster could bring, and he wanted other families to have the same chance that his own family had received. Interestingly, that generosity did not weaken his financial stability. On the contrary, the image of a compassionate artist opened new opportunities for collaboration. Major brands approached him not only for his fame, but also for the moral values he represented. For Vince, that mattered less than the quiet peace that came from knowing he had used his wealth in the right way. Someone once asked him whether money could bring happiness. He thought for a moment before answering, "Money cannot buy love. It can protect the people you love." The sentence sounded simple, though behind it stood a very long journey. Even so, deep inside him there remained a vague sense of unease. He had witnessed too many losses to believe that money could control fate. During the quiet nights after Amy's surgery, when the sound of heart monitors had faded from memory, Vince understood that everything he possessed could become meaningless within a single moment, especially when the story was tightly bound to death. In that same year of 2020, as the world spun in turmoil because of the pandemic, some of the greatest icons of this musical genre began leaving the stage forever, one after another. For Vince Gill, those were not merely headlines in the newspapers. The first was Kenny Rogers, who passed away in March at the age of 81 after a long struggle with illness. Kenny was not only a legend with millions of records sold, he was also a big brother figure within the Nashville community. Vince once shared that whenever he faced difficulties in his career, simply hearing Kenny's voice on the phone was enough to calm him down. When Kenny died, Vince agreed to perform at the funeral with eyes reddened by grief. He stood before the microphone, his voice trembling slightly as pain tightened in his throat, speaking farewell words he had never wished to say in his entire life. Before the sorrow had time to settle, July of that same year brought another loss when Charlie Daniels passed away at the age of 83 because of complications from a stroke. Charlie, with his blazing fiddle and powerful personality, had always been the soul of electrifying concert nights. Vince remembered the times the two of them shared the stage, bright lights blazing, crowds shouting their names. In the end, every light fades, only memories remain. Vince participated in memorial concerts, carefully selecting each song as though he were speaking directly to the one who had departed. He did not cry often in public, though those standing near him could see that his gaze had grown more distant than before. Then came Joe Diffie, another close friend, who died from complications related to COVID, only a few days after announcing his diagnosis. That loss was not simply personal grief, it shook the entire industry. Vince once said in an interview that those successive deaths created a gradual ache, a quiet and persistent pain, not violent like a lightning strike, though steady and wearing. He began to realize that he had reached an age when midnight phone calls might carry terrible news. Each time the phone rang at such an hour, he would freeze for a few seconds before answering. During that same period, Vince's role within the country music community became clearer than ever. He was no longer only a veteran artist, he had become a symbol of comfort, a keeper of memory for an entire generation. Then, the year 2025 delivered another shock. Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle Reiner, close friends of Vince and his family, died in a tragedy that no one had imagined. The news that they had been killed by their own son left both Hollywood and Nashville stunned. Vince said very little to the media, choosing instead to remain at home, turn off his phone, and spend a week mourning quietly. Those close to him said that during that time, Vince almost never touched his guitar. He sat in the living room staring into empty space, occasionally letting out a quiet sigh. "I never thought I would have to say goodbye to them this way," he said softly during a family gathering. It was not only the pain of losing friends, it was confusion in the face of the darker corners of human nature. How could a family once filled with laughter end in tragedy? The question haunted him for many nights. Vince's family shared a tear-filled moment when they gathered together to look through old photographs and watch travel videos taken with the Reiners. Laughter mixed with quiet sobs. In that fragile moment, Vince understood the true value of friendship. Fame can arrive and disappear. Contracts can be signed and eventually expire. Simple dinners and sincere embraces remain the longest in memory. Those accumulating losses forced Vince to confront himself. He began reflecting more deeply about time, about age, about what truly matters. His music afterward carried a different color. The familiar, warm voice remained, the delicate guitar passages remained, though within them lay a deeper emotional layer. He wrote about separation not through despair, but through acceptance, with friendship returning like a fragile gift. What stood out was the way Vince chose not to close himself off. He continued participating in memorial concerts, stepping forward to connect younger generations of artists with stories of the past. He spoke about Kenny, about Charlie, about Joe, as if they were still somewhere nearby, simply stepping away from the stage for a moment. For Vince, Music became a bridge between the present and memory, between the living and those who had passed on. Then something unexpected happened. The songs written in grief became a source of comfort for others. Fans wrote letters explaining that they had found peace listening to him sing while facing their own moments of mourning. Vince realized that sadness, when shared, could transform into strength. Perhaps that is the mission of an artist, turning personal wounds into collective empathy. He came to understand that life is not measured only by the number of albums sold or awards placed on a shelf. It is measured by the number of sincere moments we manage to give one another. That awareness made every single musical note feel more precious. At the age of 69, Vince Gill is no longer the young man with a guitar quietly standing backstage at the Grand Ole Opry as he once did. He is now a living monument of American country music. His hair touched with silver, his voice deeper with time, though his eyes still shine whenever he steps onto the stage. Vince's legacy was reaffirmed once again when he received the Ken Burns American Heritage Prize, honoring his enduring contributions to American culture. 22 Grammy Awards, more than 26 million albums sold worldwide, and his role as a mentor for younger generations of artists were all mentioned in the award presentation. When he stepped onto the stage to accept the honor, Vince did not talk about numbers. He spoke about the people who helped him remain standing through the years. He mentioned his family, his friends, and the unknown musicians who traveled beside him through hundreds of concert nights. He ended his speech with a simple sentence: "If my music means something to someone, that is the greatest reward." When he announced a 50-year anniversary tour titled 50 Years from Home, people did not see only a list of concert dates. They saw a journey that had stretched across half a century, now condensed into musical notes. The tour began across 14 major markets, including 6 residency nights at Ryman Auditorium, the sacred hall of country music where history has been written in sound. Standing on that old wooden stage, Vince once joked with the audience, "I have grown old with this place." Behind that gentle line stood the weight of an entire lifetime of devotion. 6 consecutive nights, the hall was completely sold out. The crowd included every generation, from those who had followed him since the 1990s to younger listeners who had discovered him through online recordings. They sang together, cried together, and rose to their feet in applause when he bowed in gratitude. Only a few months later, he announced 13 additional shows scheduled for February 2026. At an age when many people choose rest, Vince accelerated instead. He also decided to release monthly EPs consisting of songs that had never been publicly shared from his personal archives. Old demos, songs written during quiet midnight hours, unfinished recording attempts, all carefully selected, refined, and presented to listeners like fragments of private memory. Alongside his personal projects, Vince continued touring with the legendary band Eagles, which he joined in 2017. Since 2018, the band's global tours have generated more than $100 million in ticket revenue, and Vince has been part of that movement. He blended his voice into timeless songs, standing beside rock icons he had once admired from afar. For many people, that would represent the peak of fame. For Vince, it proved that music recognizes no borders. Amid all those journeys, he still returned to Nashville, Tennessee, to the warm home filled with the laughter of children and grandchildren, where he has lived with Amy Grant, the woman who has walked beside him for 24 years. Financially, the year 2026 marked a point of stability. His estimated net worth surpassed $40 million. Royalties alone continue bringing roughly $6 million each year because of multi-platinum albums certified by RIAA since the 1990s. Each solo performance generates an average of about $150,000. Added to that are real estate investments across Tennessee, ownership stakes in restaurant businesses, and other forms of passive income. Of course, not every financial decision turned out perfectly. Vince once lost a noticeable amount of money after experimenting with crypto investments a few years earlier. He never avoided the subject. "I make mistakes like anyone else," he admitted. Those mistakes were not large enough to shake the financial foundation he built over half a century. What moves his family most deeply is not the financial reports or revenue figures, but the way he chooses to use his wealth. He supported Jenny's singing career with a $500,000 investment so she could study, record, experiment, and fail without fearing financial pressure. He devoted around $2 million to the education of Karina and his stepchildren, making sure they had opportunities to learn within the best environments. Beyond money, he showed them discipline, passion, and loyalty to family. One evening in 2026, the whole family gathered to watch a video of Vince playing the rare guitar that once belonged to Jabbo Arrington at the Grand Ole Opry in 2018. When the notes filled the room through the screen, his children fell silent. They did not see only a gifted artist. They saw their father, a man who had spent his life honoring musical heritage and passing that love to the next generation. One of his children said softly, "I am proud, because Dad is not only famous, he is kind." The words made Vince turn away to wipe tears from his eyes. Vince Gill's life today stands as proof of the endurance of a legend. He continues creating, continues touring, continues receiving recognition. His wealth provides security, though his legacy offers hope. When his children watch him on the Ryman stage, they do not cry out of fear of loss. They cry from gratitude, grateful for growing up inside a family where music and love move together. At 69, Vince does not speak about retirement. He talks about songs that remain unfinished, stages he has not yet visited, and young artists he hopes to guide. He understands that his journey has not ended. When stage lights glow again and the guitar rings through a packed auditorium, one truth becomes clear. Real legacy does not live in the number $40 million. It lives in the way a person uses an entire lifetime to create sound that touches the hearts of others. Through that, we see that his journey continues, inspiring future generations. And with that, we have reached the end of Vince Gill's life journey. Thank you for traveling through this emotional story together. If Vince Gill's journey inspired you, leave a like, share this video with someone who might need a little encouragement, and do not forget to subscribe so you will not miss more powerful, real-life stories. Write in the comments below which Vince Gill song has ever brought tears to your eyes. I will read and respond to all of them. See you in the next video. I wish you a peaceful and meaningful day. Goodbye.